Sega was always a different company than Nintendo was. As a child, growing up, I was already introduced to gaming, hardware, and systems, and I thought, when I was introduced to Sega, I thought they were absolutely just magical. Um, that feeling you get when you feel like there's nothing else that can compare to what you've just witnessed or experienced. I'm gonna go off topic a little bit, but when the Xbox launched, I played Halo with my dad, and then the PlayStation 2 was launched, and my dad had it, so I played it a little bit. And then when the GameCube came out for Nintendo, we had that. That one was my console. That was the console I had. That one wasn't my dad's, it wasn't my mom's. I had the Nintendo. Or the Nintendo. I had the GameCube. And my favorite game on there were most of the Sonic games, I will say. But Sonic Mega Collection was probably my favorite as far as content. See, Mega Collection was how I was introduced to some of the classics that Sega had, on the Genesis, on the Saturn. But I still didn't know, even at that point, I still didn't know that Sega was so fantastic, because, that was the most exposure that I had. I had a really well-rounded childhood as far as other, consoles and publishers went, but I did not have a Sega console growing up, not at all. Not one. And it wasn't until I was around 14, my father, I was living with my mom, and my father, he sent me a Sega Dreamcast. Now, this Dreamcast, alright, it had a lot of games, and I will admit, it may be, unethical for the amount of games that I had, but he sent them to me, and I treasured them. And then immediately, when I got that Dreamcast, I absolutely loved Sega. Sega became my favorite video game publisher, my favorite console publisher that there was. It's just, looking at the system, I was excited, I was giddy. I hadn't been that excited before in my life. I had a GameCube, sure, but the damn thing was just a cube, Dreamcast had this interesting design, and a pop-open CD holder or disc holder. It was great, and that, so the Dreamcast just sparked my entire love for Sega, absolutely. And the Dreamcast had a lot of shovelware. I'll be the first to admit it. There weren't that many good games, but there's a lot. There are a lot of great titles for the amount of shovelware that there was. Nowhere near Nintendo Wii level or even Wii U. There's so much shovelware on those consoles. Nothing's good. Nothing except first-party publishers. And I will say, alright, first-party Sega games, absolutely fantastic. Third-party Sega games, it's give or take, but I just love them. And after this, okay, so I had stopped playing the Dreamcast a little bit, and I had gotten a 360, and I actually went through 3 of those. I have my 4th one right now. And then I eventually even got into PC gaming once I got a good laptop and was able to fuck around with that. But when I got into PC gaming, I found the moral gray zone of video game emulation. Now, I will stand by emulation with my dying breath, especially against companies like Nintendo. Not really against, because it does boost sales, blah blah blah. That I'm getting off topic. The point is, when I found emulation, it was fantastic, because I was able to play, old Sega games, and then titles like Sega Mega Classics that came out on Steam and has that really nifty, neat background and the crickets chirping, blah blah blah, you know, all that sort of stuff like that. I was absolutely immersed in the Sega Genesis and the Saturn library. Well, I say Saturn, but you know, there weren't very many good games on the Saturn. I will admit. But I was absolutely enamored by, you know, the charm and the polish of most of the games, especially the first-party Sega games. That's definitely what I'm really wanting to get at. And I knew the love that the devs put into every game. You know, even today I have an SNES emulator on my phone, but I also have a Sega emulator, a Sega Genesis emulator, and I have a few games on that, and I love them. Ristar, Phantasy Star 4, I'd say the rest of them, but you know, I haven't played those yet. The games are huge, so give me some slack here. Gunstar Heroes, absolutely. The Genesis was fantastic. And, you know, I believe love went to Nintendo games. I'm not singling, you know, them out. I loved Luigi's Mansion, you know. I just think Sega does what Nintendo don't. In any case, when I was younger and I'd imagined, you know, coming up with IPs and stuff like that, Sega was always an inspiration for me. Back when I imagined myself being in the game development business and stuff like that, and even now that I don't want to do that anymore, I still appreciate the feeling when I fantasize about being the director or the stand-in programmer of a new Sega IP. I was a dreamer. I was an absolute dreamer as a child, and Sega got me dreaming. And I love their advertising as well. Sega has always been great for advertising, and a weird, insane shit that they just put out, and just like the old Sonic 3. No, was it the Sonic and Knuckles? It was the Sonic and Knuckles advertisement where they pulled the kids into the screen. That was the craziest shit. And then Sonic popped out of the screen or some shit like that, I don't know. Despite growing up with Nintendo, I do love Sega more. But I can appreciate the rivalry that they had, and I miss that so much. If only it could come back. The other publishers, you know, Microsoft and Sony, they never connected as much as Sega and Nintendo did, I feel. And I know that the Atari company is making a new Atari box this year, or maybe it's coming out next year. But I know Sega can't do it. They can't pull through. They don't have the funds. Yada 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 yada. But I can still dream. Damn it! I hope one day that Sega comes back as a console publisher and has games on their own systems and just bring that rivalry back. The Nintendo-Sega rivalry is probably one of my favorite things about the video game industry to date. It was fantastic back in the day, and you know, they could get away with a lot of things. Especially like the Sega does what Nintendo don't thing. Nintendo would sue somebody in this day and age about something like that. And it's depressing. It's sad. They just. I'm gonna go back to my topic here. A lot of factors sparked my interest and my love for Sega as a company, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say Sonic Mega Collection and Sonic Gems Collection on the Nintendo GameCube were probably the start of it all. The start of the amazing rabbit hole that I went into that was the Sega company. And I love them. I'm sitting here, I'm smiling while I'm reading this script. I love them. That's in the script too. No, it's not. That's not in the script. But they're fantastic. And I urge everyone to try a classic Genesis game one day. You don't even bother trying Sonic. I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, you know, you have to try the 2D Sonics." They're great. They're fantastic. I won't disagree. But try something ingenious. Try something creative and original. Try something like Ristar or Gunstar Heroes or Vector Man. Fuck, Vector Man's fantastic. Just play a Sega game once in your life. You will not regret it. Thank you.